It's the interview series. The interview series. It's the interview series. The interview series. It's the interview series. The interview series. But yeah, we'll understand.
Welcome to the interview series. I'm really excited about introducing Victoria Cota. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Jeff, for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you and W Real Estate, and I'm anxious to get education out there regarding the insurance industry.
Yeah, as an insurance broker, I'm really excited to pick your brain about what's going on out there. I know in Sonoma County we have a lot of things going on, fires, all that stuff.
Yeah.
COVID, whatnot, and so we'll dive deep into that. But first, let me just kind of talk about you, right? So you've been in Sonoma County since 2004.
Correct.
Moved here from Colorado.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
If I may ask, well, what prompted the move from Colorado?
Chickens.
Chickens,
Yeah.
okay, I like it.
Believe it or not.
I love it,
Yeah.
it. Cool. Been in the financial industry since 2000. You were a private banker for 15 years and served as a community bank manager for the past 5 years.
Correct.
Opened your own agency in 2020. Mm-hmm. Your team consists of your daughter, so keeping it in the family. I like it.
Yep.
Well, you have another, outside of your daughter, you also have one other producer who's bilingual in Spanish, correct?
That is correct.
Love it. And mother of
correct.
3 adult children, 8 grandchildren, so.
Love those grandchildren.
Love it. I've been asked for some advice here. I have one daughter, she's 8. Any advice for me?
Hang on. It gets better.
It gets better. Okay, I love it.
They'll hate you for a while in their teen years, but
Okay.
then they'll turn around and love you. So
Okay, I love
just
it.
be there for them.
Can I just say I love that this is on video so I
Yeah.
can show her that someone else said that. That's great.
Your dad is great.
I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so you cool with us just diving into this?
Let's go.
Okay, so
All right.
obviously I'm a realtor. You're an insurance broker. I talk to my clients about the benefits of sitting down with the realtor. And then I also talk to both the audience and then my clients about having a team, right? So whether that's a lender, an escrow officer, a financial advisor, a CPA, I think insurance brokers might be one of those, entities that are kind of left out of the mix, but very integral into just, things that we don't think about, things you have to have, need, but people don't know a lot about it. So,
Right.
Can you kind of explain a little bit like the benefits of proactively like working with you, Victoria?
Yeah, you bet. So one of the biggest benefits of having an agent on your side is, I was in the financial world in 2017 when our first major fire hit, the Tubbs fire, and I saw a lot of people upside down on their insurance. So what that means is you don't have enough dwelling coverage. So if you have a total loss, if you only have $500,000 worth of dwelling coverage and it costs $700,000 worth, to rebuild that home, guess where it's coming from? Out of pocket.
Out of pocket.
Out of pocket. I saw that a lot. By, developing that relationship with an agent and having that insurance advisor on your team, they make sure that your coverage is there. But more importantly, they make sure they are there for you when that claim happens.
Yeah, that's good. I think for those that don't know, you're saying dwelling coverage is what? Just so we kind of break that down a little bit. What is that exactly?
So your dwelling coverage is really the meats and potatoes, right? It's what they call coverage A. It's the limit that is put on your insurance policy that will be there when catastrophe hits. So in all of these fires that happened from 2017, 18, 19, 20, not one of the nice things, but one of the things that happened, these were classified as catastrophic events. In the event of a catastrophic event, usually there's some FEMA money, some government money that'll come in, besides your own insurance money. There could be some local Sonoma County money and stuff like that. Right. So even though customers may have been underinsured, there was some government money also for them. But if you just have a regular kitchen fire, there's no government money. You got to make sure you're covered. Fires are almost the #1 claim.
That's a great segue into like what you would recommend as the most common form of insurance to a homeowner. So what would you recommend?
Definitely fire.
Yeah, for sure.
Because candle fires, kitchen fires, Electrical. There's so many things in our home that can create a fire that people don't even really think about. They're like, oh, it's never going to happen to me. Well, our dwellings are aging. People aren't updating their homes maybe as they should. So that creates some issues there as far as maintenance. So dwelling coverage is a must. Liability. Liability protects you from the other person. So if somebody comes into your home, slips and falls down your staircase, your front door steps, breaks their arm, that's where liability comes in. So those two coverages. Loss of use was a big one during the fires. People could no longer live in their home. So they had to go and rent other places, and some of them were 2 years out of pocket. So loss of use is a big one.
There's differences between, and I'm just trying to make sure I break it down for those that are listening, fire and then loss of use. They're two different costs and
Correct.
two different coverages?
Correct.
Okay.
So if we look at and break down just a basic policy, let's take a few moments and just do that if you don't mind, Jeff.
Please,
okay. So your basic policy. First, you're going to have coverage A, your dwelling policy. That limit is specified for reconstructing your home. Then you got separate structures. Separate structures is usually 10% of that dwelling coverage. So if your dwelling coverage is $500,000, you would have $50,000 for separate structures. What that does is cover anything that's not attached to your home. Storage sheds, fences, a detached garage, maybe an ADU unit or a granny unit or something like that. That's pretty common anymore, especially in our area. Then you have your personal property. Personal property, think of picking up your home, turning it upside down, giving it a good shake. Anything that falls out of your home, that's considered personal property. Okay? And then you've got your loss of use and then your liability. So that's pretty much the basics that make up your basic homeowner's policy.
Okay. That makes sense. I'm not going to hold you to it, but I have to ask.
Okay.
The cost associated with that, right? I think it's, what does that look like? And I know it probably varies, but like, I think you kind of already explained why does someone need it, but just cost-wise, how does someone
So how an
determine?
insurance
Go ahead.
carriers look at their risk. Okay, so all insurance carriers, we're a for-profit business, right? So we have to be profitable. So we evaluate the risk and we look at what they call property protection class. The property protection class includes, do you have fire hydrants? How close you are to a fire hydrant? How close you are to a fire station? Road access. Is it just a one-way road up a windy road, or do you have a two-way road? And then we look at fire lines. Fire lines is basically environment that your home sits in. Is there a lot of brush? Is there a lot of trees? How is it cleaned? This sort of thing. And then who lives in the home? So age, kids, all of that takes in consideration as far as how we rate the risk.
Yeah, so
it's on an individual basis.
Safe to say that it's important to come and sit down with an agent like yourself to kind of go over and break down what that looks like.
Correct. Just like as a consumer is coming in and buying a home, they kind of know what their dream home wants to, what they want it to look like. So it's important that they understand in order to preserve that dream home when a catastrophe hits, or even any claim.
Yeah, and how long would like a consultation take with you if someone just has never met with an agent and they come and ask you, what does that look like
I would
time-wise?
say give yourself a good 30 to 45 minutes up to an hour.
Okay.
I mean, it just depends on the conversation and how it flows and the questions that are involved. So you wouldn't want to meet your doctor going into a surgery for 15 minutes over the phone and going, hey, your surgery is going to cost $20,000. Is that okay with you? And don't understand what's going to happen during that surgery, right?
Yeah, that's true. How can someone tell if their homeowner's insurance is enough coverage? Is that part of the discussion that you have in the consultation, or, without having that knowledge piece, how do they know if it's enough coverage?
That's kind of a tricky question, but a good question, Jeff. So each carrier has their own software program, and it's how we reconstruct a home. So we take it from the ground up, okay? And so it pulls in county records, it'll pull in city records if somebody replaced a roof or anything like that. And so it'll pull in those specifications. But then if you work with a local agent like myself, we have some knowledge of labor costs in our area, home costs in our area, and we usually have relationships with builders. So right here in Sonoma County, reconstruction is anywhere from $350 to $500 on up for just reconstructing your home per square foot. So reconstruction is a lot different than a market value of your home.
Okay. And I think they come to you to seek protection, so to speak. So is there anything else that they can do to protect themselves?
Yeah, ultimately it's our investment as a consumer, right? So how we protect ourselves is really up to us. One, get the right insurance. Two, maintain your home. You got to do the maintenance. It's just not buy it and forget it. Make sure your roof is clear of any debris. Make sure, there's trees not overhanging. Your vegetation around your property is cleared. Clean out your gutters. With the fires that we've had, there's a lot of fire defense mechanisms out there. You can put screens on your filter, your vents, so embers can't fly into it. So just educate yourself as to the best method of how to do defensive mechanisms out there.
Okay. I love it. And I mean, as a real estate agent, what type of insurance policies are there out there as it relates to real estate?
So, primary home,
Okay.
If you're buying your primary residence, so we offer that. If you're looking for investment property, rental property, secondary homes, a lot of people have secondary homes. Vacant homes, if a home is vacant, we can insure that as well. Apartments, so.
Okay. Okay. And then clients that ask me, do I need earthquake insurance? Do I need flood insurance? Do I need fire insurance? You mentioned fire, so I know you're all about that life. And anyone in Sonoma County understands that. And it actually might be a requirement now in some areas, but earthquake, flood, obviously I'll throw fire in there, but that's a question I get a lot. What's your recommendation on the earthquake and the flood?
Well, fire is mandatory if you have a loan against your property. The mortgage holder is going to want you to have that fire protection, just similar to auto on the road. You have to have it. Earthquake and flood. Earthquake, never mandatory. Flood is mandatory when you have a lender and you're in a flood zone. Well, Jeff, we live in earthquake territory. So you got to ask yourself, do I want to be self-insured when it comes to an earthquake? Or would I want some of that risk to be put on a carrier? It's a little bit different where you don't have to have complete coverage, like your dwelling, your home's, $500,000. You could have $50,000 worth of earthquake. You could have $150,000. So you can build it however you want to. Similar with flood. With the rains we've had, a lot of people saw mud coming in. Mud is horrible to clean. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but it's nice to have just a little bit of flood or earthquake just to help protect yourself. So I recommend people looking at it and then evaluate according to their budget.
Yeah. And I'm always thinking about, as an insurance agent, the things that you've seen. I could only imagine. So are there any horror stories out there that you've thought through or that you had to experience or help people?
Well, just looking at the news every day, there's horror stories every single day.
Yeah.
People running through your front door. You live on a corner of a busy intersection. People lose, control of their car, and all of a sudden it goes through your bedroom. Yeah. Trees are falling down all the time.
That's true.
Horror stories. Sewer line leakage. Gross. Having your toilets back up, not a pretty picture. Yeah. So those are some of the not so pleasant claims that come about. No claim is pleasant, but yeah. Yeah.
And so, I'm still stuck on the sewage part, but it's I'll get over it. I'll get over it in time. It's a natural thing.
It's stinky.
Yeah, it is. I smell it in my head, if that's even possible.
Well, and people think that it's going to be covered, but not necessarily it's covered. There's some optional coverages, though, that you can purchase to help cover yourself when it comes to service line and that type of coverage.
Yeah, yeah. What tips do you have for like finding the best insurance coverage, right? Like, how does that? I mean, I think I go back to the consultation. I think a lot of that will be uncovered there. But just any tips for the common person out there that's looking to
I think
get into it?
One, educating yourself.
Yeah.
You know, talk to your friends, talk to your family, see what they have, why they bought what they want. And then really talk to a local person, because you talk to an 800 number, they don't understand our area, you know. And really have a good understanding of what it is you're purchasing, you know. And at my agency, you know, we're there for you at the time you purchase or the time renew or the time you buy, let's say. But every single year, I ask for a review. Life changes. Things change. There's some common myths out there, Jeff, that when it comes to personal property, for example, people think your wedding band's that. You spend $10,000, $15,000 for the love of your life to put a ring on her finger, right? Personal property does cover it, but it's very limited. It may only cover it from $2,000 to $5,000. That ring is worth 15 grand at least. You have to put those kind of high value items in your home on a separate schedule. So people don't even think about that. And so unless you have an agent really asking you those types of questions, well, you know, and a lot of my friends, they're like, I'm glad you start with education because I lost a diamond ring, went to replace it, and they only gave me 2 grand. So those sort of things I like to uncover with customers and plan the what ifs, because that's really what insurance is for the what ifs.
Yeah. I mean, I think sitting down with you and talking about this is important because we're not thinking about that stuff.
Right.
You're going to have a house for a long time, right? I mean, average people are staying in homes from 7 to 10 years. It used to be 7, it's starting to increase, so there's that average. And so, like, the valuables in that home, like, you're not thinking about losing, right? And then you also aren't thinking or educated enough on how to protect that, right? What does that look like? So I think it's important to sit with someone like yourself to touch base and find out that. So you say kind of educate yourself. I think some of the education is coming from talking to you.
Correct.
Because sometimes friends and family, I mean, they might know a little bit, but like coming to you, I think is the biggest step towards that education, right?
And then make sure you're dealing with a worthy carrier when it comes to claims. I mean, I've seen and heard some horror stories in these fire situations that they weren't getting their money for months on end from their insurance carrier. And so by making sure that your company is reputable, you know, highly rated with Standard & Poor's, J.D. Powers, this sort of thing, because that's why we buy insurance. When we have that claim, we want to get paid to make us whole again, right?
Yeah. I do have a question around technology. Has that impacted the insurance industry?
Oh, yeah.
And how has it impacted the industry?
It's impacted every industry, right?
So,
again, I mentioned when it comes to the reconstruction, it's all automated. It pulls in data from various fields. And so we can very quickly evaluate a home's reconstruction costs. Therefore, we don't have to go out and do home inspections as much. We do home inspections on very high value homes. Electronic signature. You know, you're probably a little bit familiar with that in the real estate world. Everything can be signed electronically. You can pay electronically. You can do everything from your app on a cell phone, you know, from submitting a claim to paying a bill or what have you. But nothing will take away from the relationship you build with your local agent.
Yeah. What does that relationship look like for you, right? I mean, I have clients, I sit across from them and I do my thing. Like, what does sitting across from Victoria look like from helping a client find the right coverage and the right price point that they're comfortable paying?
Right.
What does that relationship look like with you?
So it starts with an in-depth conversation. We have an intake form, what we call. We ask for some basic questions regarding the home, and we can do some education ourselves through, you know, Realtor.com, Zillow.com, look at the square footage of the home, look at how many bedrooms, the kitchen, and everything else. What I'm looking from a client is, when's the last time the roof was updated? What type of roof? Sometimes those pictures out there aren't updated. Do you know what type of roof it has? Because that does matter. Your roof does matter a lot when it comes to premiums on an insurance. And then liability-wise, Nobody really understands what liability is for. It's really to protect your assets in the case of a lawsuit. So unless I'm asking you, hey Jeff, how much assets do you want? How much assets do you hold? We need to protect those from a lawsuit. And so if I don't ask those questions, I don't know. And I may put just in the regular $300,000, which is pretty common for your liability. But if you're sitting on $2 million, and believe me, have you seen the ads out there for these personal injury lawyers?
Mm-hmm.
They're going after you and all assets.
Yeah. I think, again, going back to education piece,
Yep.
and the relationship is going to be huge. I think technology is, and all the information out there, whether it's YouTube channels like this or just you can Google, they have all these different sources that
Yep.
you can't beat the relationship with someone else
Correct.
that's been there, that's seen it, that can educate your particular answer.
Right.
So don't want to skip over like the human part of it.
No,
Right?
the human factor
The
is
human factor is-
probably the most important thing. Whether you're dealing it on an 800 number, unfortunately, when you're dealing with those kind of carriers, you're probably going to get a different human factor each and every time you dial in.
Yeah, very true. Are there like common insurance mistakes that people should watch out for?
I think one of the most common insurance mistakes are, we talked about that jewelry. Everybody thinks their jewelry is covered 100%. Another myth is replacement costs versus actual cash value. People really don't understand that, and it's like, okay, that's jargon. And so replacement cost means, say your roof is damaged with the winds that we've been having. Shingles get torn off and everything else. Replacement cost, they're going to go in and the claim will pay have your roof repaired based off today's replacement costs, if that's in your policy. If you have a policy that says actual cash value, they'll take in consideration the age of your roof, take out depreciation, and they'll pay you based on that. So there's a huge difference in actual cash value and replacement value. And you're not going to know that by just looking at your renewal notices or anything else. It's when you come to your actual policy, and a lot of people don't even look at that policy. So again, educating yourself, because you want to know what you're covered for. You don't want to know when it's claim time and you find out you're not covered.
That's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another reason to sit with someone to talk to them about it, because you almost don't know what to ask.
Right.
So like you might not find the answers online because you're not.
You're not asking the right questions or
Correct.
don't even know what to
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So through that conversation, relationship, things like that are uncovered.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Any advice on someone that's purchasing like new insurance coverage? We kind of talked about it a little bit, but any advice on someone just bought a house, or I guess you kind of get it before, but just bought a house yesterday and looking to get insurance? Any advice that you would give that new consumer?
One, the biggest thing that we see is, okay, I just closed my loan is $600,000, but you're only insuring me for $500,000. My dwelling's only $500,000. Well, take in consideration your loan for $600,000 includes your land. Carriers are only covering your dwelling. So there could be a disconnect there versus even market value, right? That home could be worth $700,000, $800,000, but we're only insuring it up to $500,000 because we're only looking at reconstructing the home itself, and we will only make a person whole. We're not going to give you an upgraded home. You have basic cupboards, and all of a sudden you want granite this and chrome that and everything like that. Insurance is made to make you whole as you were before that loss. Not to downgrade you, you have to be made at least whole. Okay? So I think that's some of the common myths. And I think another myth out there is when it comes to debt mortgage protection. And what that is, people think, okay, if I lose my life, that carrier is going to make my insurance payments. We hear that a lot. But no, debt mortgage payment protection is very important. A lot of our homeowners here in our area are 2-income wage earners, right? And so if a loss of life happens, we hate to hear that. It happens every day. You don't want to have to relocate your family at the same time everybody's grieving. Debt mortgage protection is not in your basic homeowner's policy. Have a conversation.
That's huge. Circling back to the unfortunate hot topic, which is fires.
Yes.
Is there anything else that, I mean, in your experience that people need to know, or just anything out there that you've seen?
So what's happening right now, say in the industry, a lot of carriers are non-renewing customers. So when a carrier decides to non-renew, that they don't want your risk anymore, so upon renewal, they'll give you 60-day notice and say, we're canceling your policy, we're non-renewing you. So you have to go out and find policy, your own policy. A lot of times that's because you're in a high fire line, and so what's happening a lot, you may have to have 2 policies now instead of 1. Like, my company may insure you for all perils and liability other than the fire peril. And then we've been using the California Fair Plan to come in and protect your property for the fire. So it's a separate policy similar to earthquake and flood. But the good news is you can get insurance, So I see those trends happening every single day.
Got it. And there are, the fire policies they're obviously mandatory / required, right?
Yeah.
So
you could be self-insured, but if you have a loan, they're mandatory.
Yeah, if you're financing it. So I guess I can't ask if there's a set price, but are there variables? Are there different plans? Does that mean, what does that look like?
There's variable plans.
Not based off of the size or location, but if I buy an $800,000 home tomorrow, how many options does one have? Or is it just one option for fire?
No, there's probably a couple different options out there for you, because let's talk about the California Fair Plan. The California Fair Plan is a bare bones Fair Plan policy. You actually build it with your agent. You determine, you have to have the dwelling coverage match the coverage from the carrier you're getting all perils and liability from. So if I'm writing a $600,000 policy and I'm having $600,000 in dwelling and it's in a high fire line area, my California Fair Plan has to be $600,000. Okay, but I don't have to put loss of use on the property. I don't have to put personal property for content coverage. We don't have to insure your separate structures. So we can keep that fire peril just strictly like a catastrophic event, right? Mm-hmm. And we can put higher deductibles on it. One of the myths out there is deductibles. People think they have to pay that deductible first, before, say, the reconstruction costs start to happen. That's wrong. The deductible will come out of your claim check. So if you do a claim check for $500,000, your deductible is $10,000. They're going to work with a $490,000 coverage amount.
Okay, that's good to know. That's really good to know.
Yeah,
and I agree that would not be known. A lot of people wouldn't know that.
Yeah, they think they have to come out of pocket for that deductible.
Yeah. Okay. Probably relating that to health care deductibles, right?
Yeah. Yep.
What else? What else is out there? Information-wise, anything else you can think of that you think the audience might need to know from an insurance perspective? We've covered a lot, right? I think.
Yeah, we have covered a lot.
Fire. We just kind of spoke about earthquake, flood. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the relationship piece I think is the most important. Continue to get educated,
right?
Because costs can vary depending on what you need. So, again, just like I have said in the past, meet with a lender, meet with a CPA, meet with a financial advisor. Each one is going to be individually dedicated to you.
Right.
So I think there's no difference when you think about insurance, right? So.
Right. You should have that insurance advisor. They dialed in on your phone. When your home goes up in flames, you want that cell phone of that agent saying help.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you don't know when it is, or something catastrophic. Well, I guess I do have more questions when it comes to, because I have to admit I haven't sat down with an agent, so this is like me. It's almost like you're interviewing me essentially.
Okay.
This is my thing. What happens in the case of theft?
Yeah. So theft is covered.
I'm thinking, is that covered under which umbrella?
Well, it's covered under personal property.
Okay.
Because that's what's going to, your TV's going to, somebody's going to break in and steal personal property.
Yeah.
So they're looking for that jewelry box.
Yeah, of
So
course.
make sure you need that jewelry rider.
Yeah.
So you're high value. So theft, vandalism, all comes under a regular homeowner's policy.
Gotcha.
One thing people don't understand a lot is also under your personal property, under your homeowners or renters policy, it covers things that are in your car. So a basic auto policy, you've got your golf clubs out there. I'm an avid golfer, so I have my golf clubs with me all the time. If my golf clubs get stolen, it doesn't go under my auto policy, it goes under my homeowner's policy or my renter's policy, either one. So people don't understand that. Computers. We all leave our laptops in there. Phones, look at how expensive phones are. Something gets stolen out of your car, again, it comes out of your homeowner's policy.
No, that's really good to know. It's really good to know.
Yeah.
Just had to ask about the theft. I figured it was part of that. I think a natural question after that is, how much does that cost? But I totally get that it's individual based off what you select, so I understand that.
Right.
But ultimately, like I said, I want to make sure that this podcast or this interview is adding value to those that might not have it. And so maybe we can kind of compartmentalize the things that you've said. And it just, hopefully it helps. At least if it helps one person out there, I think we've done really well. If we get multiple people coming and calling Victoria, that'd be awesome as well. But I think, where can they find you? It's kind of a key piece. Like what's your best method of contact? We'll also put it up on the on the screen for those that are watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
But there are some people that will be just listening to it.
Right.
So what's the best method of contacting and finding you?
So the name of my agency is Victoria Cota Insurance Agency. You can Google it. I have my website. It has a QR code. You can send me a message. You can start a quote right there. I'm located in downtown Sebastopol. So I can sell all over California. So if you have your primary home, but you have a secondary home down in San Diego or somewhere like that, we can insure both of them. So yeah, easily foundable.
Awesome. I love it. But no, I want to thank you for coming by, blessing us with your knowledge and your insight. It's been an honor to just have you here and really meet you for the first time in person, right?
I know. No, what you're doing here, Jeff, is so important. I mean, you can't stress enough how important education is when it comes to the insurance world.
Yeah.
And sitting down with a local person. I mean, local person with local knowledge and understand what can happen here.
Yeah. And I could tell firsthand that you care, right? So I think that's important as well. So you almost want to sit down with someone who has the heart of a teacher. Yeah. And so that's the vibe I get from you. So I mean, anybody out there that has questions, why not call Victoria and just get some insight and touch base with her. So
you sell the real estate, I'll sell the insurance.
Deal. I love it. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks,
so
Jeff.
Nice to meet you.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
You as well.